Before we get into this video, I need to give a little bit of an explanation. I already recorded the audio for this video a couple of days ago, but last night Epic Games did decide to change the infantry rifle. They made it so that the damage started from 42 down to 40, and they also reduced the damage drop-off. So in this video, you're going to hear me talking about how the infantry rifle starts at 42 damage and all of that stuff, but everything on screen is going to be correct. So I'm going to show the infantry rifle at 40 damage, and I'm also going to have the updated infantry rifle damage drop-off. My overall opinions on these weapons doesn't really change from this information, but I will say this. In this video, I talk a lot about the potential for the infantry rifle, and I would say that the potential only increases from this change. Yes, it did get a damage reduction at the start from 42 down to 40, but that doesn't really change a ton. But that increase from 28 at maximum damage drop-off distance up to 34 is a pretty big change. That means that at any given range, you're always only going to need 3 shots in order to do at least 100 damage, which of course is the starting damage for every player in Fortnite. So if anything, I would say that that is definitely a positive change for the infantry rifle. But anyway, that is all I wanted to mention. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and let's get on to comparing the new heavy assault rifle versus the new infantry rifle. Let's start out by talking about the heavy assault rifle changes. The heavy AR change was pretty simple. Instead of the 3 highest rarities being blue, purple, and gold, they are now white, green, and blue. One of the very first things that popped into my head when I read about this change was that the heavy AR was now going to be even less accurate, since as we know, the lower the rarity of the weapon, the less accurate it is going to be. However, it turns out that that is not the case. I compared the old gold heavy AR versus the new current blue AR, and it turns out that they actually decided to secretly increase the aiming down sights accuracy. As you can see from the first 6 bullets when aiming down sights and strafing, the old gold heavy AR is actually less accurate. It isn't until the 7th bullet, which is the point where the accuracy will remain the same for the remainder of the magazine, that the current blue AR becomes less accurate. And as we've discussed previously when breaking down the heavy AR, you don't want to be firing that long anyway. So the new blue heavy AR is actually superior in ADS accuracy. When it comes to hip firing, however, it's another story. The current blue heavy AR is definitely a lot less accurate when hip firing than the gold heavy AR used to be, as you can see here. Now the other and more obvious change to the heavy AR is that it got a reduction in damage. The heavy AR used to do 48, 46, and 44 body shot damage respectively, but the new rarities only do 40, 38, and 36 body shot damage, so the damage was lowered even further than you would have expected it to be. From here, let's go ahead and move on over to the infantry rifle and talk about its changes, and then we'll talk about the impact of these changes for both of these weapons. The infantry rifle had a huge fundamental change. The infantry rifle used to be a projectile-based weapon similar to sniper rifles, but is now a hit scan based weapon. This means that the second you pull the trigger, the bolt will go where you are aiming instantly. There is no delay whatsoever. This makes hitting your target significantly easier, since not only do you not have to account for the force of gravity on your bullet, but you also don't have to account for where your opponent is going to go and the time it takes that bullet to reach them. On top of this change, the infantry rifle was decreased in damage from 45 down to 42 for the highest rarity, and it now also has damage drop-off. Right here is a graph showing the damage drop-off for both the infantry rifle as well as the current heavy AR. Both of these weapons start damage drop-off at the same time, and when they stop damage drop-off, they stop at 66% of their original damage. Here's where things get really interesting for the infantry rifle. As you can see here, when we compare the stats of the infantry rifle versus the heavy AR, the infantry rifle does more damage per shot at all ranges, has a faster fire rate, and as aforementioned, is now a hit scan weapon. One thing to keep in mind here is that the infantry rifle has less than 1/3 the magazine size of the heavy AR, but it doesn't have anywhere near 3 times the reload speed. That's what you would expect if you want a weapon that has a smaller magazine size to be able to keep up in long-term bullets fired. So it's clear that the heavy AR is going to be superior at firing a bunch of bullets, and we will talk about that more later in this video. On top of all of that, Epic decided not to nerf the infantry rifle's accuracy, which is what you would expect when a weapon goes from projectile based to hit scan based. Right here is the accuracy of the infantry rifle when aiming down sights and strafing. This is the accuracy for every single time you fire the infantry rifle. Realistically, that is 100% accurate. It's going to be nearly impossible for Bloom to cause you to miss a shot with this weapon. Comparing the infantry rifle's accuracy to that of the heavy ARs really shows you just how much of an advantage the infantry rifle has here. Granted, you can and you probably should make the heavy AR more accurate by firing it more slowly, but again, that is another advantage for the infantry rifle because the infantry rifle can potentially fire at the same speed while having the same good accuracy. The current state of the infantry rifle really is uncharted territory for Fortnite. We've never really had a weapon that isn't a one-shot kill that actually has a faster time to kill and is basically 100% accurate. Usually when we have a weapon that is 100% accurate, we sacrifice a lot in the rate of fire of the weapon, resulting in it having a slow time to kill. Or we sacrifice another aspect of the weapon, such as the weapon not being hit scan, like the infantry rifle used to be. But now, the infantry rifle is just booming with potential. Now of course the infantry rifle isn't the end all be all, it definitely has some downsides. For instance, this weapon has an extremely small magazine size of only 8. What does that mean? That means that one of the main ways that the assault rifles are used, which is destroying opponents' builds, is not going to be nearly as effective with the infantry rifle. Destroying a simple piece of wood costs you nearly 50% of your magazine, so putting consistent pressure on someone that is turtling just isn't going to be a thing with the infantry rifle. With the heavy AR's more than 3 times larger magazine size, it's a lot easier to put pressure on your opponents. In a game that is all about building, being less effective in that category can be a pretty big disadvantage. But where the infantry rifle really shines compared to the heavy AR is in pure gunfights. The perfect accuracy allows you to hit your first shot, and the continuous accuracy thereafter means that if your opponent doesn't build cover instantly, they will potentially take a large amount of additional damage if your aim is true. But with great potential comes great skill requirement. In order to use the infantry rifle, since it is not full auto, you have to fire at the same time that you are tracking. And obviously eliminating one of those things like you would with a full auto weapon is going to make it so it's easier to track an opponent. So when choosing between the infantry rifle and the heavy assault rifle, there's a few things you need to consider. If you're going to choose the infantry rifle, you need to make sure you have a shotgun and probably an SMG as well to combo with that shotgun. A heavy AR is going to be favored more in a situation where you only have one weapon because the higher magazine gives you more playstyle versatility. Another thing you have to consider is how skilled of a builder are you. The infantry rifle is good at doing initial damage, but in order to take advantage of that damage, you have to be able to quickly close the gap on your opponent. You want to re-engage your opponent before they have a chance to heal, and you have to prevent them from doing so simply by pushing them, since the infantry rifle doesn't allow you to put a lot of pressure on players hiding behind their builds. So when it comes to which weapon is better, I would say that the infantry rifle has the upper hand. It checks off all of the boxes as being the better weapon potentially. But in order to take advantage of the upper hand, it does take a lot more skill and tactical play. So ultimately you have to analyze your own personal playstyle and choose which one is best for you. Before I end this video, I want to briefly give my opinion on how the changes of the heavy assault rifle and infantry rifle impact the state of Fortnite. One of my biggest gripes with the infantry rifle when it first came out was that slow firing weapons can be really frustrating to get at the start of matches. Getting a sniper, a hand cannon, a flintlock, an infantry rifle, and even a heavy AR now can be really frustrating when your opponent gets a shotgun. Something like an SMG or a normal assault rifle or even a normal pistol is much better at putting pressure on shotgunners because of the faster fire rate and faster time to kill. Going up against a slower firing weapon while having a shotgun in a close encounter engagement is an easy win for the shotgunner. For that reason, I'm not a big fan of the change to the heavy assault rifle. I think it's still a great weapon, but cluttering up the starting loot with anything that isn't a shotgun is just going to frustrate a lot of players. You want to have those spray and pray weapons be the starting loot pool, and then when you're done with the hectic initial gunfights, you can start looking for those more tactical playstyle weapons such as the infantry rifle and the heavy assault rifle. As for the actual changes to the infantry rifle going from projectile based to now hit scan based, those are some pretty crazy changes. I'm interested to see whether Epic will actually keep them exactly where they are, specifically the 100% accuracy. As I mentioned earlier, we've just never really had a weapon that has this much potential when it comes to accuracy, as well as this much potential when it comes to damage and time to kill. So only time will tell whether Epic thinks this is a good idea or something that needs to be readjusted in the future. But that is just my personal opinion on all of this. Let me know what you guys personally think on these changes, as well as which weapon you think is better. That is all that I have for this video. I do hope that you found it informative. If you're new here and like this type of content, feel free to subscribe. If you'd like to support me when spending V-Bucks or when buying games in the Epic Games Store, you can do so by using my code FLAM. If you made it all the way to this point in the video, thank you so much. I truly do appreciate it, and I'll catch you all in my next video.